Okay, so now that we've got our sheet set up, we've built our detail view, now we need to start translating this information across. Okay, so we'll need to go back to our details section. Now I need to start adjusting this information to look correct. Just remember, while you're busy drafting, remember to toggle your line weights icon just so that you can see things a lot more clearly and more accurately. Okay, so this is an important tool. Okay. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I'm going to hide my topography. I don't need this at this stage, so you can go hide and view element. You can do that option, or you can go to view visibility graphics and you can simply go to topography over here and you can switch off your topography. Okay, does the same thing. At any point, you can use this reveal hidden objects. You can select this object and you can say unhide category again. So you can use that function to hide information. I'm just going to go and say hide and view element. Likewise, if you go back here again, just remember, reveal unhide element. Okay, so there's different, you can hide the category or you can hide the element. Okay, all right, so hide this. Great. First thing I need to do is readjust my DP, and you'll notice that these tolerances at different scales. So if we go back to this scale, you'll notice here it's pretty close. And now as we start zooming in, the detail starts to change. So all that we have to do is tab, select the whole lot of the line work, and you're going to go to offset. Okay, I'm going to offset this by 15 mil just to start with. Remember, we're not going to use copy, we're just going to use offset. So click the offset command again, tab on the line work, and maybe one more time. That's good enough for how I want this to look. Okay, I'll readjust this information. So what we can start doing now is we can start bringing back, the information. So Control C, Control V. If you want to, and this is how I like to work, so I like to close these other views and then go to View and Tile while I'm doing this, so you can have this information and you can start bringing information across. Okay, so we've got a sand layer or a screed layer. Sand and screed, we can use the same layer. I've got a repeating detail. Okay, so I've got a paver that I can adjust. So it's got instance parameters, so I can adjust it on the fly, but by default it's a 75 by 50. Its height is 50. But if you click on the paver, you'll notice that you can adjust the width on the fly. Okay, it's got a 5 mil joint, which will be filled with sand. Okay, so you can pull this, now you can start working on this information. Okay, so, and you can keep referring back to your detail if required. Okay, all right, so I know for a fact that I'm going to have a sand layer. I'm going to have a sand layer. I need a step here, for example. So let's just add my sand layer quickly. Okay, so I'm going to go to Annotate, Filled Region, and I'm going to use Screed. It doesn't really matter. It's the same. Screed. Now, remember, if you're going to use sand layer, try and match the line weight, because this is a drafting item, and sometimes it'll sit over your modeled item, so you'll need to match line weight. So hit 6 on your keyboard very quickly, because I know that this is concrete. You can use a pick lines tool, so I want to pick that line, that line, that line, and maybe the sand will stop there, for example, so use a trim command. Now that I've got this line in place, I'm going to simply use the offset command, and usually it's a 50 mil bed of sand. Okay, so you need a sand layer. Okay, 50 to 20 mil, but typically you want to use sand layer of 50 mil. Okay, so you're going to use the offset command now, change this to 50, copy, my apologies, you're going to use the line command, but now we're going to use the one hatch. So I use the hatch line for this, or line 1, it doesn't matter, so I'll use line 1. Okay, just whatever works for you. So pick this tool, and I'm simply going to say pick tool offset 50. And if you tab when this line works, so hit this command again, so pick line, tab, now you can see, perfect. So there's my sand layer. just close the sand layer off. Remember, you need to close it off here at the end. Just literally close it off here. Use your trim command. Remember, use your trim command. And then finish your sand layer. Okay, so fantastic. Here's your sand layer. Now this layer, let's just double check. You'll notice that it's not masking, so let's just say mask. And now you can see it's masking the full layer beneath. Okay, but now technically our full layer needs to be adjusted. So let's just do that quickly. So technically our full layer will start working from that sand layer. Okay, so we'll have a 150 offset from that sand layer. Okay, so literally all that we're going to do is grab all this information, move it. So move it to this line, grab all of that, move it, grab all of that, and then move this to your sand layer. Fantastic. Okay, just remember you can select everything. We can make everything line 1 for now. Okay, we can make some final adjustments. Tab again to select all of these, grab the node, just make the square for now. I'm just having to work out how this is going to work for the time being. So, right, so just adjust this, edit, so grab both of these. You can just use the move command and you'll see it will readjust. Okay. The last thing I need to add now is just my natural ground line, which I can adjust later on. So go back to filled region. Here you're going to scroll down to get NGL, natural ground line. Likewise, keep everything as is. You just literally going to pick this point, pick this point, pick this point, pick this point, and then we can draw a line like this for the time being, and then I'm simply just going to use the invisible line. So hit on your keyboard, use the shortcut, scroll down to invisible lines, and then, so these lines will never show. So just pull this back. So it's like using hatches in AutoCAD, except the difference is that you don't, you use like a filled region instead, so you can't just fill. So here you can see, here's my natural ground line. Okay, at any point I can adjust these now on the fly very quickly. Okay, I can hide this in the view for the time being, so use your glasses, hide element. Okay, all right, so let's move my repeating detail. Let's grab this. This is going to be my paver. Okay, I'm going to move this down. So move this in line with this. Now just make sure that you're snapping to the right endpoints, and I'm going to move this down by 85 mil. Okay, this is like a shop front scenario, so just remember typically you want to achieve a 170 between natural ground level and the top of your Screed or DPM level or DPC level. But in this instance, because it's around a shop front, we can get away with a lot less clearance. Okay, so we can move this down by 85. I can move this down. Okay, so I'm going to move this information, put this over here. Now move this by 5 mil, and then grab all of this information and move it by a further 5 mil. You might have to adjust this once you get to this detail over here. Okay, so in essence, you see this line over here, I might just move that away. Okay, so this is starting to come together. I can move all this information, move this, put this in the correct location for the time being. Now this layer, I can start adjusting to meet. Okay, so here I need to make some adjustments. However, I am going to have like a haunching line here, so I need to show some concrete haunching. So let's do that quickly. So here I'm going to go to region. Here you can get away because technically it's not structural, so you can use a 5 line weight line, and you're going to change this to concrete because technically this is a weak concrete mix. So concrete. Grab this line for the time being, and then this will typically come down at an angle. That's totally up to you. Come back, trim this. Revit will always try and make a closed loop as well. So if I finish my hatch now, go switch my line weights on. So now you can see I'll need to adjust this line just a fraction. You can use a nudge key, get this in the right line. So you want this to match this line over here, like that. So make sure, here's my concrete haunching. Here you see we'll just have to do some adjustment to show. Okay, I see there's something gone wrong here with my fill, so let me just double check my fill. Edit. Yeah, so here we have a little problem, so split this line, make this line weight 6, just so that it reads correctly. Okay, these do take a bit of anyway, I can move this down to here. Okay, but I'll show you how this works now. We can fine-tune this information in a second. Okay, but my concrete hatch is now in the right location. There's enough clearance here, so I'm going to move all this stuff back for now, just so that it reads correctly. You can work a bit more precisely, but remember this is drafting. This is illustration only. So here I can move this down to over here, for example. Okay, so at this level of detail, I'm seeing enough information. So maybe grab that, and then just nudge it once more. Grab this line and nudge it once. Nudge it again, once more. That's perfect. Okay, as long as this reads correctly, this line over here, edit boundary, I'm going to convert that to 6 for now. 6 concrete. And this will probably go to that line over there. Just remember, this one you're going to send to the back, send to back. So this hatch technically just sits at the back. So these hatches can sit over. So here, this doesn't really matter. Okay, so you can move these and put these in different locations, but as long as it starts to read well. Here, for example, this guy, you can just use the align tool now. So use the align tool. Finish this. Your sand layer can do the same thing. It depends. Just remember, you can use your draw orders just so that things, so this, for example, draw order, send to front, bring to front, just so that the line weights start reading correctly. So technically, you don't have to finish these off perfectly. Okay, so this information, drag this. Okay. Anyway, our details coming together now. You can see this information is starting to work well. Okay. Now, here we're going to have to put in some shopfront detail. I'm happy with the result. It's looking good. Maybe the sand layer you want to take over here, but leave it where it is. That's fine. Okay. As long as you're protecting your DPM, damp-proof membrane, we can start adjusting this information now. Okay. Maybe want to pull this back a fraction. The last thing I need to do is introduce a break line. So what you can do is go to Insert and start adding this information. Go to Insert, Load, Cloud Content. So just go and make sure it's the UK library every time. Just remember, United Kingdom. You're going to go to Detail Items. Now, if you go to the annotation section, you'll notice that there's a breakline tool, so just load that. In this view, you can go to Annotate now, Component. Now you can use this breakline tool. Spacebar allows you to. So now I can use this breakline tool. And here you can adjust the left and right, so make it 500, 500. You can adjust the sizes of pretty much everything here, so you can put this information just like that, and you can start copying this information up and down. Okay, so you can literally start copying this information up and down. Okay, so go and add as much detail as you can as per my example. Remember, if you make this a repeating detail, if you go to component repeating detail, just remember you can make all types. All it is you duplicate this version, test. Okay, for example, test. Here you can pick any detail item that you've loaded in, for example. So I could find one of these, for example, like a steel section, and then I can make, so this is like a tile, a roof tile, for example. So you can make all of these types of patterns. Okay, let me just quickly go to test. I'm going to make this rotate clockwise 90, apply, just see if that fixes. So it mustn't be in the opposite direction. Now you just have to get your spacing correct. Apply. So here you can see I can do my roof tiles very quickly if I wanted to and put them at any angle. Okay, so just remember how to create these repeating details. Now the next step I need to do is start replacing this information. Okay, so I need to add a screed. So again, filled region. Remember, there is a limit to what you're going to model. So you need to decide how much you can. You could have modeled the screed as part of the floor, but you could run into issues later on. So this is a 30mm screed. Remember, this is going to match 6 concrete. The rest of this information will be line weight 2, for example. Likewise with this bit of line work. You could also make these detail items line-based as well, so there is that option. So now I can pull this information. So here's my screed. So typically, with the shop front, there needs to be a filler piece over here. So if you go back to your details again, so if you go back into this view, you'll notice how these junctions meet with the floor. I've got a very specific detail how I want this to work. So this is how it's going to work. Okay, so now that I've got my detail in play, here's my detail over here. Now I can simply just grab this information and then use it in here. So I'm going to grab all of this information, Control C, go into this view, Control V. So all I need to do now is, I know where this is, so move all of this into the correct location. Move this to the right location, because technically that will be my bottom section there as I need it. Then I can simply go and hide this information. Okay. So here I can go and hide Revit's information in the background. You've got different options. You can make it look thin, so you can also change this information. But in this instance, I want to hide all this information. One last thing that we need to do is before we carry on is make sure that the view depth of this section is correct as well, of this call out. So what it does is by default, it adopts the view depth of the section that you've referenced. So in this instance, I'm going to tell it to be independent, and I'm only going to cut through this. So I'm only going to look 1,500 deep. Okay, and you're going to clip without line, so you're going to say clip with line. Okay, just in case there's elements. And now you can see I can start hiding. So hide element, hide and view element, and I'm going to hide my shop front, hide and view. Okay, in this instance, I want to keep some of this information because I'll need this information over here, and I'll just fill in the blanks as I need. Okay, so tab, select the panel, let's hide this, hide and view element. So what it's done is it's kept the mullions, it's kept this information for me, which I can readjust later on. So that's totally up to you. You can leave this information and literally just draft around it. Okay. Okay, but here, for example, now I can start using this information as I need to. So copy this to the side. Just remember you've got the copy here, so now I can actually, and these are blocks. Just remember in my previous video, I showed you how to make groups. So in essence, all that these are, let me just copy it to the one side. It's a series of drafted lines. It's a series of drafted lines and fills that I've put together. And all I've done is selected everything and made a group. Okay, give it a name. Just remember, you can move this point, so it gives you a snapping point. So if I move this object, if I go move, it gives me a nice snap, an origin. Okay. In addition, just remember, if you want to duplicate this and make a new group, you'll need to go to duplicate, because if you've put the same block in again, so let me just show you this, copy, and whatever I edit in here, it will affect this. So you'll need to duplicate these if you want to make duplicates, okay, or use the same type of information. Great, so what I'm going to do now is remember, now if you select objects, you'll be selecting stuff in the background, so just be very careful what you select. Okay, so that information I want to delete because I want to use this information down here. So I want to stretch this information to the correct level. So this I'm going to move up to here. Then all I'm going to do now is simply grab all this line work and adjust it. So that will go to that level there. Okay, now you can just simply grab these grips. Okay, so you can literally go and grab all of these grips and then, okay, you can also use a trim multiple command. So use this command very quickly. Select this line for the time being, and then select all of these, and then you can go and, so trim multiple, my apologies. Select this object, good, and then that, and that. And then once you go to the top, you can readjust these. Just remember there's a line weight behind, so you do have to go and readjust these to the correct location, okay? Just so that this information reads well. What happens in the group sometimes, make sure that that's sent to back, okay, just so that it reads correctly. You'll notice that it will change, it will change in these views as well, so double click, make sure, send back, send to back, send to back. Okay. To avoid that, you can just use copy the line weights. Okay. There you see that's correct. Good. So here, I've put in my shop front detail. Okay. Likewise with this, we will keep this information, but we will hide, we'll change the line weights of this and draft over this. So just like I've done this exercise, I'm going to add detail to this. I'm going to add detail to all of this, okay? Likewise, with our ceilings, this was drafted originally. Now you can start using your, so insert, so there'll be a ceiling as well, so copy this ceiling, copy this. This is a line-based, just remember this is a line-based board, so if you go to annotate, detail item, and you go and find its, you want to get your ceiling board. So just remember, it's this object over here. So right click, create similar. And this is waiting for detail items, gypsum sheathing. Now if I start drawing, press spacebar, here's a new ceiling board. Remember this is drafted, it's a drafted item. If you double click and you open up the family, you'll notice that this is a line-based detail item. So you can create these as well for Screed, etc. Okay. All right, now that I've got this in place, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to insert my ceiling. So go to annotate, component, and you can go and find ceiling. So try and name these things like I've done here. So just say no detail for now. Here's my trim. So if I put it on this point over here, you'll notice now that this is going to work quite nicely. So grab this line-based object and you're going to pull it back. So here, don't snap it to the end. You can try and get it. You want to create some sort of clearance. Grab all of this and you're going to nudge it away from the concrete. So use your arrow keys, undo. I was selecting a beam in the background, so undo, just be very careful. And then nudge it. You want to nudge this, so zoom in so your increments get better. That's better. Okay, so once I've got this information, I can simply copy this now and put this in the right location. Okay. And then start bringing this information. You'll see that it'll snap at a good distance. So you're going to do the same exercise for the rest of these. This is slightly different. This is technically going to sit over here, but we've got an insulation drafting item that we can use. And remember, at any stage you can change this. Simply use the line command because I'm going to use it, and then move it down, nudge it down. So you just want this away from, just so that the hatch reads. Okay. All right, just remember for our ceiling boards, I'm going to go and draft in the information at the back. So you're going to use detail lines. So there's going to be a hanger system over here. And here I'll use my one hatch line, because technically this is stuff that sits way in the distance. Copy this line. You can use filled regions and masked regions to hide stuff in the background. Okay, so detail line. So use detail line again, use the same command. This time I can use the offset command, say 50, and I can simply start drawing. Okay, detail line, and just switch off that, make it 0. Now I can simply, okay, so use that workflow. Okay, so if we go to Adobe and we go and look at the example, you'll notice that all this information here is drafted lines, and you leave it pretty vague for the time being because it's only when we start going into detail that we start adding more and more detail. So remember, this is all detail items that I've brought in and edited. Okay, so that's the last thing I'm going to maybe show you, is how to bring in the screws, these aluminium sections, etc. Okay, all right, so now I'm going to populate this with a whole lot of detail and then get back to you shortly. Okay, so I've gone and added in all of the detail that I needed. I can close this detail view for the time being because I've got enough information. So I've added all the information that I'd required. So I've put in a bit extra detail over here. I drafted some additional information. Okay, so you can see now that this is coming together. Let's hide that in view, hide element. Okay, undo, I made a mistake. Okay, so that's fine. You can see that everything is working well now. Okay. You can see that all this information is starting to work well now. So typically what I try and do is hide the mullions in the background. So that's all I've got left to do. So just hide the mullions. So you can literally just select everything over here. Check none. Select the curtain wall railings, the mullions. So curtain wall mullions. You can hide, apply, press OK and hide in view. Okay. You can also hide the curtain wall system as well in the background because that is in the way. So just select everything again. Select everything again, use your filter command, check none. You just want to make sure that the wall, press OK, and then hide that as well. Hide element, hide in view element. Okay, so now you can see you just want your drafting information over this, hide this as well. You can use a masking region as well, which will also do a good job. Okay, so it's totally up to you. So I'm going to select all this information again. So here, check none. So I want to hide the curtain wall. Apply. Okay, hide in view. And then just select this again. Check none. And you want to hide the panels, which should be selecting, which don't want to select at the moment. Hide in view element. Hide in view element. Okay, remember you can also use a masking region to mask stuff as well. Okay. Alright, so I'm happy with this result. Okay, so enough of the information is hidden in the background. Okay, that's good. We've got all our information now. Okay. The last thing that we need to do is we need to start chamfering. So this is another tool that I need to show you how to use. So now that we've got 80% of this information done, I'm going to explain how we're going to use these detail fixing items, and then we're going to start chamfering the concrete as well. Okay, so if we go to view, so select, this is a modeled roof. This is a 3D element. So it's a roof. So what we're allowed to do now is if you go to modify roof and then you go to the view tab, there's an option here, cut profile. So what this allows us to do is modify this profile in this view only. Okay, so I'm going to use circles. I'm going to show you how. I'm going to use a 15 mil. I'm going to use some chamfers over here, 15 mil. Okay, and the last one I'm going to do is create this 15 mil so I can use I need to show my joint. I need to show this drip joint. So I'm going to move this information where it intersects with this circle. and then move it back by 40 or 50 mil. Okay, so just remember, use your line weight tool, select this object now, move, snap center, put it on this line over here. This should have been locked on the line, so that was my mistake. Now move this on that intersection to that intersection. Now you're going to move this again 50 or 40 mil. So 40 mil. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to use my line tool from there to there. So where it intersects with that, from there to there. And then here I'm going to draw my line tool. This is different, so you're going to create another line tool. So snap on the center, snap SC, snap center, and then you want this perpendicular to this line over here. Okay, you can see this is problematic sometimes, so you want to change which line this uses. So here I'm going to use my annotate. So you're going to say angle, so I'm going to say this line and that line, and here I'm just going to make sure that that's 90. Fantastic. Get rid of that now. And now I'm going to use my line tool again and go from intersection, snap intersection. Okay. Delete this information. Now, with this tool, what you need to remember, it'll give you this arrow. If I finish the command now, and I go to my view now, you'll notice that this will look correct. If I select this information again and I switch my line weights, and if I go in the opposite direction, look what happens. Everything else will disappear and it'll just show you the resulting information. So just be careful of that. Just be careful that you use make sure that you activate just select this and make sure, cut profile section, make sure that the arrow shows what's getting maintained. Okay, so that's how you're going to go and add all that information very quickly, switch your line weights. Now the last little tool I'm going to show you is how to bring in these fixes. Just again, this is a masking region, this is a filled region. Okay, now how do we go and use these nuts and bolts, for example? The best way to do this is go to the Insert tab. You're going to go and say Load Family. Once again, you're going to go and find, so in Detail Items, go and find all the fixtures and bolts and information that you need, like screws, etc., etc. So let's just find this, load the screw for the time being and show exactly how this works. If I go to Annotate, Component, you'll notice now that it brings in this object. However, I would go and edit the family, and I would save this family in your library. Save as family. I try and rename these better. I call this fixing, and then countersunk screw, just like that. I'm going to save this on my desktop for now. There is a library that you need to start adding this information to. Save. Now these things never really look correct as well. So what I do is I change all of this stuff and I put this on a fixing layer. So fixing. So if I go to manage quickly and I go to object styles, here I create new categories. I call it fixing. And I do this for all of them. I'm going to make this one, make it gray, because technically this is like a hatch. It's not primary information, it's secondary information. Then I duplicate. So here, for example, fixing, I'm going to make a new subcategory and call this fixing hidden. Okay, now make this gray as well. Now, here I'm going to add a new line type. So I need to add a new line type for now. Change all of this stuff. So for example, this head, for example, this might all be hidden, but maybe in this instance, all this stuff will be from down. So let's just break this line over here. So split. So let's just say from here, all this information over here will be. So change all of this stuff over here. Change that to fixing the hidden. Okay, I'm going to make that hidden, for example. Fixing. Okay, good. Now, you're going to go to Manage, Additional Settings. Here, you need to go and select your, so let's just say line patterns, for example. I'm going to use this dash one. I'm going to duplicate this dash. So go to New, Edit. Can you give this a new name? I'm going to call this dash, so fixing hidden. Here you need to get it to the lowest value possible. So 0.6, 0.6. Okay, it won't go any smaller than this. So press OK, press OK. So all this information now, will go on that layer. So if we go to 1-to-1, I go to Manage, okay, Object Styles. Here in Fixing Heading, I'm just going to use this fixing, press OK. Now you'll notice that this is all hidden like this. Now if I load this back into my project, you'll notice that this will start looking correct in your view. Okay, yes, these two lines are too low to be hidden, but all that it's done is if I go to Manage Object Styles, all that this has done is I've got a detail items. You'll notice it's added fixing hidden, and it's giving me the correct line weight. So it's just added it to the project, and at any point you can go and manage this information. So you can change the colors here if need be. Okay, so I go and make a series of these as well and start using this information. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to focus on now is just going to my details again. So detail 1 and detail 2, doesn't really matter. Just remember, very much the same process. Go and grab all of this information over here. So select everything. Go to the filter command. The only information that you want to drag across is the detail item groups, detail items, and all of the rooms, for example. Okay, press OK. Just make sure everything is selected. Copy, copy, go back to detail 1 or 2. And then you're going to paste this information back in. Align to current view. Now you'll see that you're going to have to go and add more information, hide more information, make some final adjustments to make this read correctly. I'm going to leave it like this. And then I'm going to complete my 2 details and show you the end result. Okay, so I've gone and added all of the necessary detail to my other 2 detail 1 and detail 2 callouts. So if we go to our sheet now, you'll start seeing now that this information is now starting to read correctly. We've put in all our fixings. So I've gone and added the necessary detail. I've put in all the necessary chamfers on the concrete, for example. Okay, likewise over here, I've gone and added all that necessary information. Okay. All right, so in our next video, we're going to cover adding all the annotation, text, and just refining this information to print.